2 years of the pandemic, and things are finally kind of settling down. Okay, and we seem to be getting out of this precarious situation that we found ourselves in. The pandemic is about to get over, and the problem is that a lot of people might have a certain tendency. They might be tempted to think along a certain lines. And what is that? So if you look around on all over social media, be it Instagram, be it Facebook, be it LinkedIn, any kind of social media, you would see that people, and it's not their fault, they have every right to do it, but if you will see that people are claiming, some people, obviously some people are claiming that the pandemic is something that has helped them a lot, helped them to move ahead in their careers, helped them to do great stuff. Okay, and they claim that the pandemic has been a very productive time for them. The 2 years, they have made enormous strides in their business, in their lives, and that might be true. Okay, and I have got nothing against anyone who claims that that's the case, because if you look at news and social media and everything that's coming out, you would hear that people have started new businesses up, people have written books, people have done creative work, and all of us are like bombarded with information like this, positive information, where a lot of people have done where a lot of people have done a lot of great things. And and it's natural in this situation, when you look at all of this information that's being thrown at you, not just the enormity of the information, the size of the information, or the size of the data points, but also the speed at which it's coming at you. You open up your phone in the morning and you will see that someone has done something great. Okay, and it's relentless. And in this situation, it's very natural for someone to have a tendency to think and to kind of introspect and see whether I have made the most of the pandemic like this XYZ person is claiming that they have done in their lives. Right? It's very natural, and it's very tempting to kind of compare yourself with someone else and see how much better, or how much, or what you have made of the situation that you were given. Right? So that's the first thing which I want to share with you. The second thing is obviously something that you would know, but it's also something that one needs to be reminded over and over again. And what's that? The actual pandemic and what happened during it. Okay, so just a statistic which I would like to throw at you, which you would be already aware of, and that's close to 5 million, 5 to 6 million people have lost their lives during the pandemic. Okay, and that one statistic itself, 50 to 60 lakh people, and that is an official statistic. We don't know what the ground reality is, how many people have lost their lives, so we have no idea. But the official statistic itself is very, very scary. Okay, and it's kind of really really something. So we got to call it like a catastrophe that has happened, and it's true. So if you look at the statistic, and the other thing about the statistic is that the moment you look at a statistic, you kind of, you have encapsulated whatever has happened in a certain number. Like when I say 5 million or 6 million folks have lost their lives, I'm kind of encapsulating everything in that number. So it's very easy to forget or kind of underplay what has happened in reality. Okay, so in reality, children have lost their parents, parents have lost their children, we have lost friends, we have lost colleagues, and if you kind of try to understand what has really happened, it's bad. Okay, so the real scenario in the pandemic has not been very great, and And we need to kind of take that into consideration whenever we assess what we have done throughout those 2 years. Okay, what we achieved, where we have gotten, and we need to look at the actual playground. And the playground was such that people were losing their lives left, right, and center. People were struggling, people were getting sick, people lost their jobs, and in summary, it was bad. Okay, it was unprecedented, and at the same time, it was quite bad for a lot of people. Majority of people, it was quite bad. When I look at myself, I was someone who had the privilege to even not work during the pandemic, and things were fine for me. So you get that, right? So not everybody might have had that privilege, and I find myself very fortunate in that way. So, but having said that, the ground reality was quite bad. Okay, so in that context, let's look at the tendency that we are having to think whether we did the best that we could have done during the pandemic. In that context, we need to analyze that question, whether we made the most of the pandemic. Okay, and if you start doing that, then you will realize that, was this pandemic an opportunity to get better in your career, go further in your career? Was it like this, that someone sat across from you on a table and said this to you: hey, listen, I'm going to give you an opportunity. 2 years, there's going to be a pandemic, and you would get ample time. Okay, so you would not have to travel to work. So post work, you can kind of spend time on that hobby of yours on which you always wanted to spend time. It was not a conversation like this. You were thrown into this. You were kind of subjugated to this, that, hey man, you have to go through this. It was not an opportunity, it was adversity. Okay, and people say that adversity kind of creates opportunities, but that's not the point over here. The point over here is that this was an adversity which could have taken you along with it. So if we are sitting here and I'm talking, that means I survived the pandemic. And if you are listening to this, you survived the pandemic. Yes, you might be battered, you might be bruised, but the point is you survived all that. Okay, and it was not like an opportunity where you had to make the most of this opportunity and get something out of it. You survived and you are here at this point in time. That means you had it better than maybe those 5 million people that we are talking about, or 5 to 6 million people we are talking about who lost their lives. Maybe you had it better than all those families this 5 million people belong to, right? And that's, again, I repeat, that's just the official number. We don't know what the actual ground reality is. So you might have had it better than a lot of these people. So while you have a tendency to kind of compare your scenario or what you have achieved with someone who has had it better, it might also be wise to look at someone who has had it worse and kind of balance that comparison out, right? And I think that's the smart thing to do. Okay, rather than beating yourself down saying, hey man, you could have done a lot during this pandemic but you couldn't. You were lazy, you were not pragmatic enough, you were not focused enough. I mean, you can do all those sorts of things with yourself. You can really beat yourself down. But what I would suggest is kind of take a more sorted, kind approach towards yourself on this matter. That's all right, you couldn't make the most of the pandemic, because that's not what the point of the pandemic was. It was not an opportunity, it was adversity, and you made it through. That's the big thing. Now, having said all this, why would one even have a tendency to think along these lines, right? Why would one think, after having survived a pandemic, that, hey man, you could have made the most of this pandemic? And I like to give you an example. Okay, let's say you are out on a safari. Okay, you are in your vehicle. The vehicle is all armored, not armored, the vehicle is all protected. Okay, there are grills and everything to protect you from the wild animals, but you are out on this safari, and a pride of lions, let's say attacks your vehicle. Now you would really be anxious during this period. You would really be short on breath. You would be uh, praying for your lives in a way, and and you would want to get out of that situation, and you would want to get out of that situation alive and with all your limbs intact, right? You would want that. Now let's say you kind of survive that scenario. Let's say you kind of survive that problem. A couple of weeks down the line, you have settled down. The trauma is still there, but you have settled down. Now you try and look at the pictures that you had taken during the safari, and you would see that okay, you did not take any pictures during that attack, okay, which you could have, and that could have been like a fascinating set of pictures. But you look at it and you're like, okay man, I could have taken pictures, but I didn't. Now you tell me, is that a right question to be asking yourself, or subjecting yourself to, that hey, I could have taken more pictures but I didn't? And if you ask me, that's not the right line of thinking, but at the same time it's something that would come up automatically, because the moment you are out of the dangerous scenario, what is happening now is you're looking at that dangerous scenario not in the same manner as you were looking at it when you were inside it, when you were in it, when you were caught in it. Now you are kind of downplaying it, because if you take that trauma and you kind of relive that right now, it's not good for you. It's really really bad for you. And I think this happens with some people. They kind of relive the traumas that they have gone through over and over again, and it's equally bad every single time they go through it. And you know, for some people it also gets worse. It might get worse. So the smart thing to do over here would be to look at the previous event, the event that has happened in the past, and kind of downplay it, because you have taken something away from that. You are out of it, so it's smarter to downplay it right now. And that's what we are doing. And my theory is that we are doing the same thing with the pandemic. So while we were very scared and kind of uh, very cautious while it was happening, now it has kind of eased itself out. So what we are thinking is we are kind of downplaying what had happened in the last 2 years, and kind of thinking whether we could have done more during the pandemic, as far as personal growth, as far as professional growth, as far as all kinds of growth goes. And 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 if you are doing that, then you have to say that though it's natural, it's not something that you should be doing, uh, because the fact of the matter is, it was a pandemic. It was tremendous adversity. It was a catastrophe, and you have survived it, okay, and you have gotten through it. And like that old saying goes, anything that does not kill you makes you only stronger. And you got to hope, and you got to understand that this thing has left you in a stronger position than you were previously. It doesn't matter whether you have made any progress or not. You are stronger now. You might not know it, but you are stronger than you were a couple of years back. And that's, I'm not saying that's the case with everyone, but I think a lot of people would find themselves much more strength than they had at the start of the pandemic. And on that note, I would like to end this particular video which I wanted to create. And this is something that I wanted to share with folks, because it's very easy to kind of put yourself down and say that, hey man, what were you doing all this while? 2 years have gone by and you haven't achieved anything. It's very easy to do that. I mean, if you ask me honestly, even I have done that to myself. And but I'm wise now, and I'm wiser now, okay, and I understand that that's a very stupid way to look at things. The much smarter way to look at things would be that, hey, it was bad. We had it really really bad. We survived it, but at great cost we survived it, but we survived it. And now it is not a accounting exercise where we see what we got out of it, and how much progress we have made during that period. That was not the purpose of the pandemic. I hope this video kind of finds you in good spirit, and all the best to you. Thanks for listening. If you liked what I had to share, please like the video. And if you have something that you want to ask me or share something with you, please leave a comment below in the video. And if you would like to see more such videos from my end, please subscribe to my YouTube channel.